All right, so let's go over the pieces that we're going to need for the pattern. So first of all, I have the D-ring connectors, and I will show this when we get to that part, but I also like to use a piece of, this is just grosgrain ribbon, and I just like to add that to the inside, and that just helps to give it a little extra strength. So I'll show that when we get there. I have everything divided in terms of sections or panels, and so this is going to be the card slot panel. I'm going to use the stripes for the card slots and then the lavender on the sides. I have the strap anchors. I have those pieces cut out. Of course, my hardware, I'm using 1.5 inch hardware, so those are my D-ring connectors. I have my zipper, and I have this fun little boom box zipper pull, and then my zipper tab end. My slip pocket panel, I have the 2 pieces that are cut, and you'll notice I've already cut and interfaced everything, so we are good to go. So those 3 pieces. And then for the inside zipper pocket, I have my zipper, 2 zipper pocket pieces, and then my main panel piece. And then for the other outer piece, I have the 2 pieces cut for the front. This is going to be the inside, and then this will be the back of the zipper pocket. So this is the side that has the zipper in the front. I'm not going to be adding the strip that hides the zipper because I want to show this striped zipper as an accent to the bag. So those are my pieces. Like I said, I'm using 1.5 inch hardware. And so I think the first thing we can do is, the first step is we can make these D-ring connectors. So what I did was I just added a piece of double-sided tape. And I'm going to put a piece of grosgrain ribbon right down each side. Okay, do that to the other piece as well. Okay, now I'm going to grab my double-sided tape and add a piece of double-sided tape along each grosgrain ribbon, and then we're going to fold it into the center that way. And this is just tearaway double-sided tape. And I'm just folding the sides into the center of this panel. So when you have your full panel, you're just going to fold both sides into the middle. So then it's you end up with the proper width for your hardware. Okay, so once you get those done, we're going to top stitch down each side. So I added 2 rows of stitching down each side. It's up to you if you want to add more or only add a single row of stitching, but I like to do 2 rows of stitching here. So I'm going to do the same thing to the other strap. All right, if you have any loose strings, go ahead and trim those off. Hanging strings, I should say, hanging threads. Okay, now you're going to take your D-ring hardware and slide it on. If you want, you can just clip this and put this to the side, or you can just add a basting stitch down the end to hold it in place. And I will do the same thing for the other. All right, so both of those D-rings are done. Now you're going to grab one of your cut triangles, and let me show you real quick what I did. The pattern calls for, you can cut an optional square and then cut it in half, but what I also did was on this front pocket that's angled, this is just that piece right there. So when you cut that off, just save that, and then it's less waste, and you can use that for your anchor. And then I find that I only need one of these. So the pattern calls for cutting two, and then two squares, and then cutting them on a diagonal so that you have this. But I think if you do it this way, it saves a little bit and saves some scrap, and it's pretty easy. All right, so what I'd like to do then is I will just slide this inside. You want to get it as close as you can to this folded edge, but because the hardware, you won't be able to get right up flat against that without it being uneven. And you want about, I usually leave around yeah, about a half of an inch, 3/4 of an inch. Let's see. I have a little ruler right here. So that's, actually that's about 7/8 of an inch. So as long as you have a decent amount below that, you can, and really the only difference that will make is how far this will stick out from your strap anchor. So if you want the D-ring to be a little closer, go ahead and slide it up. If you want the D-ring to stick out a little bit more, you can pull this part so there's less hanging over here. Okay, once you get that on, okay, just stitch across. And it doesn't really matter if you have any extra strings or any little overhangs here, because that's going to be on the inside. So now what you want to do is you're going to fold this back. So your strap is inside of the anchor, and this is the anchor piece here. If you have, let's see, a little pokey tool to poke out that corner, you just want to be real careful you don't poke through the material. All right, so once you get that turned through, you're going to top stitch along both edges, and then you can even base stitch or just top stitch all the way around all three, and then just having this side, you don't have to stitch the side, but having this side stitched down just makes it a little bit easier for attaching to the panel in the next step. Okay, once you have that done, let me see if my scissors, I have my little scissors over here. They cut off the little dog ear that was sticking out. Okay, once you have that done, we're going to do the same thing to the other strap and anchor. Okay, now that you have both strap anchors completed, we can set them to the side, and we will next work on the front angled slip pocket panel. And I'm going to pull the camera back a little bit here. Hopefully you can see a little bit better. All right, so you're going to take your two slip pocket pieces, place them right sides together, and then you're going to stitch down according to the seam allowance on both angled sides. Okay, and then you're going to take this panel and turn it through so that your pieces will be wrong sides together, right sides out, wrong sides together. You're going to roll the seams so that you can get them right up to the edge on both sides. You can take it to the sewing machine and give it a press if that will help. I'm going to try just rolling mine out right here. Okay, once you get it folded, so that's your lining side, that's the outer side, you're going to top stitch along both folded edges. Okay, once that's top stitched, you're going to grab your outer panel piece and lay it down. Let me move it back over here. Okay, so you're going to lay that down, then you're going to take your slip pocket, your angled slip pocket that you just made, and place it right on top. You can go ahead and clip on the top and the bottom. You're going to baste at the top, baste at the bottom. Okay, so now that that is basted on, you're going to take your anchors and baste them onto the side. So what you want to do is just make sure that the raw edge is lined up with the raw edge and that your hardware is angled up. Okay, so once I have that clipped, what I want to do is I want to measure the top just to make sure they're the same distance away from the top panel here. It's about 7/8, 3/4. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now that I'm happy with the alignment at the top here, I'm going to baste along each side. Okay, so we're going to set this panel to the side for now. And let's go ahead and work on our other outer panel. So that's the one that has the front zipper. And let me adjust my camera a little bit here. Okay. So the pieces that we have for that, we have our two zipper ends. We have the zipper, of course. And then you have the outer and the lining for the zipper pockets. And then you have the full panel for the inside. So I'm going to set the full panel to the side for now. I'm just going to use my two bottom pieces. So of the two pieces that are cut, so you have the top and the bottom, I'm going to use the bottom of the outer and of the lining. And then we're going to attach the zipper to it. So first what we need to do is prep the zipper. So you're going to take your two zipper tab ends, stitch across to attach. So you've stitched here, you're going to flip it back and then top stitch along this edge. Okay, so there's that one. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. All right, so I have both of those prepped. I'm going to go ahead and trim off the threads. And you might notice the tab is a little bit shorter than the zipper width-wise, but that's okay. It's just barely shorter. And it's going to be well within the seam allowance, so it doesn't matter. You could make it taller if you wanted to. This zipper is a little bit wider than typical, but it'll be just fine. So now what you want to do is you want to take your bottom pocket piece, lay that right side up, flip your zipper down, I'm just looking here to make sure I'm going the right way. And as you can see, there is an overhang on both sides. That's okay. You just want to make sure that your zipper is centered. So let me see what I did with my ruler. There it is. So what I'm doing is I'm just measuring, and my zipper pulls right in the middle, so that might be messing me up as well. Yeah, about 1 inch there, and yep, that's perfect. All right, so you're just going to clip across the top, lining up the raw edge of the panel with the edge of your zipper. Okay, and then I'm going to baste this on. You don't have to. If you prefer to just attach the lining panel to the bottom, the pocket lining panel to the bottom, you could do that. Because I am using a striped zipper, I want to make sure that there's no shifting, because that'll make the stripes a little wonky in my zipper in the finished product. So I'm just going to go ahead and just baste this on. Okay, now that I have that basted, now I can attach my shorter lining panel piece. I'm going to lay it right side down, aligning the top edge. Clipping it in place. You don't have to clip it in place, but I just like it because it helps hold everything together. Okay, now once you get that clipped, your pieces are right sides together. You're going to stitch down according to the seam allowance. Okay, so I just top stitched there. I'm going to now press these away from the zipper and press them so that they are wrong sides together. Okay, again, you can take it to the iron if you want to iron it to help it hold it in place. Oftentimes I'll also just do clips. And then just flipping it over to make sure everything is nice and pressed. Okay. So now you're going to take this and top stitch along this folded edge next to the zipper. So back to the sewing machine. All right, removing those clips. So now you have the bottom piece of your pocket done. Now what we did to the bottom, we're going to do the same thing to the top panel. We will trim these tabs after we get the next piece done. So making sure, if you have directional fabric, make sure it's going the right way. So you're just going to flip this over and clip it in place. And make sure your sides line up with the sides of your bottom piece. Again, clipping just along that top edge of the zipper. All right, so that's all done. Let me come back over to the table. There we go. All right, now you can trim off your zipper overhang, your zipper tab overhang. Trim off any loose threads. Okay, if you have a logo tag that you'd like to add, I prefer adding them in this section here. It's really up to you. You can add it there. You can add it up here if you have a shorter tag, because just remember this is going to be folded under for the top zipper, so it's a slimmer area up there at the top. This tends to be a nice spot. Okay, so now the last step for this panel is we're going to take the full lining panel, lay it face up. We're going to lay our completed zipper pocket on top of it, also face up. And then clipping around, you just want to make sure all the sides are lining up. I always double check on the back to make sure nothing flipped. It's all looking good. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to baste stitch all the way around. All right, so there's your completed zipper pocket panel. You can check to make sure everything looks good. Trim off some loose threads if you have any. And then we can set this panel to the side. Let's go ahead and make our 2 lining panels, and then we will be ready for final assembly. Okay, so starting with our internal zipper pocket, the pieces you're going to need for that is your shorter zipper, your 2 lining pocket pieces, and then your 1 full lining panel. So what I've done is I have already measured and marked the zipper box for this panel. So what you're going to do, there are measurements in the pattern for how far down everything is and how big this zipper box is. You just want to make sure, I'm going to be cutting to these inside lines here. You just want to make sure your zipper is long enough so that it stays inside of your inside your zipper box. Because if you cut your zipper box too big or your zipper too short, you might have some problems there with it pulling and coming loose on one end or both ends. So the first step we're going to do is I'm going to stitch around this box. So back to the sewing machine. All right, let's come back over here. Sorry, I need to get a camera system set up where I have multiple camera angles and I can just click a button and move between the camera angles. I don't have that yet, but I am going to work on that because I think that would be amazing. So let me grab my scissors here and I'll show you the next step. All right, so what we want to do is we want to cut a line down the center. Now it's up to you. Sometimes I use my rotary cutter and just cut in the center here, but not all the way to the edges, maybe about a ½ inch or so from each side. I will start and stop at. I don't have my rotary cutter over here, so the other way to do that is you can just fold this in half, do a little snip down the center. Of course, you can draw the line if you feel more comfortable with having a line to follow. You're going to stop about ½ inch before your stitch line there at the end. And then you're going to trim, or snip I should say, right up into each corner as close as you can get without cutting your stitches. Because if you cut your stitches, you'll just have to go back and restitch them. Okay, so now what we have is something that looks like this with little Y's at each end. To make the pocket, or the opening for the zipper, we're going to push the pocket piece through. So it's going to look like this. This one I am going to take to my iron and iron this one flat because I want this one to be nice and crisp. Okay, and I think once I get it all flattened and folded good, I won't have those puckers there. But if you have puckers in your material, as you can see, if I just let it go loose, there seems to be some puckers on the end. But like I said, I think once I get it all ironed and flattened down, those puckers will be gone. But if you have puckers that won't go away, it's probably because you need to snip a little bit closer to your stitch line here. So you can just turn it back through, try and snip a little bit closer, and then bring it back through to this side again. So let me go ahead and get this pressed and I'll be back. All right, so I've pressed that. I have a tiny bit of puckering there, but I think it's hardly noticeable. And when I stitch the zipper on, I think it'll be hidden in there, so I'm gonna leave it. I think it's fine. So the next step is I'm going to take some double-sided tape and attach it to each long edge of the zipper. Okay, and then paying attention to which way the zipper opens and closes. If you want yours to open a certain way, just make sure it's laying that way. I like mine opening and closing to the left. So I'm going to remove the double-sided tape, the paper backing to the double-sided tape. Try to keep my zipper pull in the center. And then how I like to do this is I will kind of eyeball about where the center is and then just try to lay it right on top, making sure my zipper is centered this way so I have the same amount of zipper tape showing on each side of the teeth. Just press it down to help that double-sided tape hold in place. Now what I'm going to do is just top stitch a box all the way around, and that will secure the zipper to the panel. Okay, so back to the machine. Okay. Now one thing, here, let me show you an option that you can do when you get to this, and most of you probably do this already, but if you don't, this is just one way to have it so you don't have the bulk of, like if you start and stop a couple stitches here, is that you can bring some long threads over. There we go. All right, now what you want to do is you just want to stitch. I'm moving it back to my top stitch length. I'm going to stitch all the way around, leaving these long tails because we're going to pull them through and tie them off at the end. Okay, when you get back, don't start and stop again. You just lift up your foot, lift up your needle, pull long threads, and then from the back side, you're going to pull the front threads through. So usually you can just take your thread and give it a pull. It's usually pretty easy to get it to pull through to the back side. Let's see here. There we go. So I want all 4 of my threads. I'm going to split them, if you can see this. Okay, so I've pulled the long tails here. I've pulled them through to the back side, and then I'm just going to tie it off. And then you can trim that if you wanted to add a little bit of, got a little bonus pin there. If you wanted to add a little dab of glue or something to that right there to help that little knot, it shouldn't go anywhere, but if you wanted to do that for extra security, you are more than welcome. Okay, now the last thing we need to do for the zipper pocket is we are going to take this panel, flip it over to the back side. I'll bring you a little closer here. All right, there we go. So we're going to flip it over. You're going to take your other pocket piece, flip that so that it is right side down. You're going to line it up. Clipping it in place all the way around. This one can be a little tricky because you have the zipper there. It wants to pull a little bit at the top. So just kind of work it around. Make sure your pieces are all lined up. Okay, so now that that is all clipped in place, we're going to flip it back over, take it to the sewing machine. We're going to pull this away. We're going to stitch down, turn, pull it panel away, stitch down, turn, like that, all the way around, making sure to keep this panel out of the way. So we're going to be, you could even do that if you wanted to, and stitch all the way around. Okay, so we're going to do that, and that will enclose the zipper. We don't have to worry about leaving it open on the bottom because this is not going to be our turning hole. All right, so there is our completed zipper pocket. Just double checking everything looks good. Good, you got your little pocket there. Okay, so now that that panel is done, the last panel that we have to make is the card slot panel. Okay, so this panel, this is the long card slot panel. I've already marked the measurements on the back of the panel and on the front of the panel, so it'll be real easy to find the fold lines. I've even marked here T for top and B for bottom because that can be confusing knowing which way. The pattern calls them mountain folds and valley folds, and if you start from the wrong side, your card slots won't work. So the first thing from the top, you're going to fold it down. So your material is right side together and right side together. I just give that a little finger press. Okay, and then I'm going to press it up to the next line. So this next line now is right sides together, and we'll see how good I can do with this because of these stripes. Hopefully I can keep the stripes straight for all of the zipper pockets. Okay, so this one, as you can see, if we look at it from the side, the folds are starting to go this way, right? So this would be a valley fold because it looks like a V and it goes down. This would be a mountain fold because it obviously goes up. So we're going to do that for all of the fold lines the whole rest of the way down the panel. I'm going to take it to the sewing machine, take it to the iron first, and then as you can see, I have a little bit extra here, and that's totally okay. This will all be trimmed once we get everything sewn, ironed, attached, all that. So if you have a little bit of overhang, don't worry about it. It's totally fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this to the iron, give it a good press, try to keep my line straight, and then I'll come back so that we can top stitch it. Okay, now that everything is ironed, as you can see, if you look at it from the side, you'll see all the folds that way, the valleys and the mountains. So what we're going to do is we're going to top stitch along each pocket. All right, so you have your 3 pockets top stitched here. We're going to fold everything back into place. I think I did pretty good with keeping all these stripes together. So I'm going to just clip the sides just to help to hold my stripes in the same spot. It's not the end of the world if they're a little bit off, but I kind of really want them to stay right there. So next thing we need to do is we're going to stitch down the center here. Sorry guys, let me move it back over here. There we go. So I've clipped these here. Next thing we need to do is stitch down the center for the card slots, and the measurements are in the pattern for that. So let me get, let's see, I'm going to use this ruler, and then let me get my marking pen. All right, so this was the marking pen that I was going to use, which is a heat erasable pen. However, the center where I need to stitch is right on this black. So I could get my other pen that's silver, but really since it's straight down and this is, all these lines line up, I'm just going to top stitch, do a couple back stitches at this pocket, and this pocket, and then just stitching down right all the way down to create your 2 panels there. All right, so that works. That is also going to help to hold the panel in place to make sure my lines don't move. My stripes stay nice and straight. Okay, so now we're going to remove the clips from the one side. We're going to take one of the side panels, flip it over so that it is right sides together. You're going to line it up at the top and clip it down the side. And as you can see, once I had it all ironed and everything, there really isn't that much of an overhang. But still, like I said, if you have that issue, don't worry about it. It's not the end of the world. And we'll just trim it to size after we get these stitched down. Okay, so now what you want to do is you're going to, once you have both panels, side panels on, they are right sides together. You've lined up the edges here. You're going to stitch down according to the seam allowance in the pattern, flip these back, and then top stitch along that as well. Okay, now that you have that attached, you have your side panels attached, now is a good time to just make sure that your card slots, everything looks good and everything fits. Okay, so that's perfect. All right, so now that we have all of our panels completed, we are ready to put it together. Okay, so now the last thing that we need to work on is our top zipper. So what you want to do, let me move these panels out of the way for now. So with your zipper on your zipper tab end, what you want to do is you're going to take it to the closed end, and I call the closed end this flat edge of the zipper pull. So this is where it's going to open and close from this end. This is always going to be the closed side. So you're going to take your zipper tab, you're going to stitch it down, and then we're going to fold it over. So let's go back to camera angle 2. Okay, so we are going to I want it to go that way, I think. Stitch it down. Okay, and you're going to press this back and then just fold it under. So you don't have to fold it under again underneath and then like that, because this is going to be in the seam allowance at the end of your bag, and it's okay if this is raw edge. Now if you don't like that, go ahead and fold it under. But this just, I like it doing it this way because it helps to keep some of the bulk down, and it works really well for me. So I will top stitch. Okay, there we go. So that is, let's see, there's my scissors. I'm going to trim off these threads. Okay, now your zipper is ready. I used another cute little boombox zipper pull there. All right, so you want to take what is going to be the front panel of your bag. And like I said, I like using this panel as my front panel. Let me get this just right. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to line up the zipper, the closed end of the zipper. Actually, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to do it from this side because this zipper pull is ending here. I want this one going the same way. So from this side, I'm going to measure in. There is a measurement in the pattern that you should measure in from the side. And that's where you want to place, you know, it would help if I had my zipper going the right way. So make sure your zipper is face down. You want it face down. Otherwise, your zipper is going to open from the inside of the bag. That doesn't really work. All right, so clipped that in place. Again, you can base stitch if you want, or we can just go ahead and add the panel. Now this is the part that is up to you. So you need to determine if you want, say this is the front of your bag, right? So when it's against your body, it's going to be this way. So when you open the top zipper, you're going to be looking on the inside. Do you want your zipper pocket here, or do you want your card slots here? I think I want my card slots because it'll be easier to see that way. So I am going to take my card slot panel, make sure your openings are to the top, because speaking from personal experience, you don't want to sew it that way and have your card slot openings at the bottom. Yeah, that's no fun. Okay, so you're going to lay it face down again, lining up that top edge. Oh, and I will say, here's another good way, or a good double check. If you did like I did and you marked the top and the bottom of your pocket, that'll be a good way too, to make sure you know that your card slots are going the right way on the inside. Okay, so now there is another mark that we need to measure and mark on this side. Okay. And then what we're going to do is, starting here, we're going to sew all the way across until this mark. We're going to stop, pull the zipper out to the side, and then continue sewing across. All right, so separating that zipper teeth, then you're going to just grab this lift your foot and pull the zipper tape out to the side as far as you can, and then stitching across to the end. So you're going to have that sticking out there at the bottom. All right, you can trim off that zipper tape. You're going to press it back away from the zipper, just like we did on the front zipper panel. You're going to press it away and then top stitch along the zipper. So I'm going to just finger press it, put a few clips in it. But I think before I top stitch it, so I don't have to keep moving camera angles, I'm going to attach the other side, and then we'll do it all at once. So taking your slip pocket, laying it right side up, you're going to fold your hardware down and out of the way so it doesn't get caught or mess you up when you're stitching along the top side. You're going to line up the edge here, line up these two panels, and then line up the top edge of the other outer panel with the top edge of your zipper. All right, flipping it over, we have to make that mark, that measurement mark again on this side. So that should line up with the zipper teeth right here. So when I get to this mark, I will just make sure that it looks like it's in the same spot. Because for instance, if the material shifts during sewing, or if your measurement was a little off and say you stopped here and didn't double check, when you flip your bag through, you're going to have one end of your zipper teeth here and one end way up here, and you're not going to be happy. So I will come to this mark. When I get close to it, I'll just kind of flip it up to make sure that it looks like it's about even with the other side, and then I will pull this to the side and do the same thing that we did on the other side. Okay, so all right, we are almost done with these flipping camera angles. Always double check too. I will just kind of open it up and see how it lays. And that looks pretty close. That looks pretty good. So I'm happy with that. So I will cut this off. If you opened it up and you saw that it was not even, before you trim off the end of this zipper tape, you could always unpick a couple stitches, readjust this either forward or backward so that it lines up with the other side, and then stitch it back down. So that's just a little tip there if you need. All right, so I'm going to pull this side away from the zipper. Just adjusting a little bit to make sure everything is lined up good. And if it doesn't exactly line up on the inside, just keep in mind that you're going to be sewing a larger seam allowance on your lining panels, so don't worry too much if your things don't line up perfectly at this point. Okay, so now that I have that, I'm going to go ahead and top stitch down both sides of this main zipper here. All right, when I get to where the slip pocket is, I will do a couple back and forths right there just because you're going to be coming in and out, and that will give a little bit of stress right here. So I'll just add a couple stitches just to give it a little extra strength. All right, moving back to our main camera angle A. I'll take all the clips off. And we are ready to do the final assembly on this baby. All right, so what you have is your two sides. You're going to unzip your zipper to the center, grab your two outer panels, and you're going to line up. So your two outer panels and your two lining panels are going to be right sides together. You're going to push your zipper towards the lining side and line up this edge right here as close as you can. So I usually like to add a clip on both sides right there next to the zipper. And then I will do the same thing on this side. So you're going to push the zipper tab end towards the lining side, lining up those edges and clipping right there. So once I have that holding in place, I will now clip all the way around the whole bag. Okay, so now that you have that clipped, I like to go, like I said, just like we've done all along, just go around and make sure everything looks good. What I'm going to do is, I think with this one, I'm going to round the edges of the corners. The pattern doesn't say to round the edges, you just square them off, but I think this would be a neat bag to do rounded corners on. So you can use whatever device if you want to do that. I'm using my roll of double-sided tape, and I'm just going to draw as a guide so I know what the corner, the rounded corner, will look like. Okay, so now that I have that as my stitch guide, you will make sure that on your lining pieces you leave, you can go ahead and mark it if you want to, but you need to leave a turning hole here for your bag. So usually, you know, 4, 5, 6 inches. I think that's probably around 6 inches. Let me see. It's about 5. So just leave a turning hole that would be big enough for you to turn your bag through. We're going to start and stop at each here just to give it a little extra strength, so when we turn it through, the stitches aren't pulling at all. We will trim the corners, turn it through, sew up the hole, and then we'll be done. All right, now that that is stitched, I'm going to trim the corners. And on the lining, I'll probably trim it down by about half, just to help reduce some of that bulk on the inside. I will trim a couple little snips as well here in the corners. And that's just going to help it to lay nice once you turn it through. Now that we have that done, let me zoom out a little bit here. We are ready to turn it through. So using your turning hole, you're going to reach in, push your zipper all the way open, just grab the bottom of the bag and start working it through. Once you have everything turned through and pushed out, you're going to fold in your seam allowance on the lining panels. And clip it in place to help hold it. All right, and then once you get everything lined up nice the way you like it, we are going to stitch as close as we can to the edge. Get nice and close for this one. Right to the edge of this panel, and that will seal our hole. All right, there we go. So let me get these clips out of the way. Trim these final strings. Okay, one more move of the camera. All right, there's our bag. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is so cute. Okay, now you can make your own strap. I also, let me grab the one I have over here. I have this webbing that was already matching. Look at that. Oh, perfect, right? I mean, you're gonna be total 80s cassette valley girl, whatever, with this, a set like this. So you can use a strap like that. There are instructions in the pattern on how to use a webbing strap. You can make your own strap. You can do a wristlet, and then you just wouldn't do these sides. But yeah, there's the bag. Slip pocket. Inside, you've got card slots and the zipper pocket. Guys, I think this might be my new favorite bag. It's so cute. Okay. Guys, thanks so much for following along with me as I make this Nooga bag. Thank you so much for participating in our Nooga Day sewing marathon. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting all of the other amazing artists and makers and sewists who are participating. Please go to their channels, like their videos, subscribe to their channels. The videos are going to stay up, so even if you don't get a chance to watch them all on our sewing day, please come back to the channels and watch them as you can. I'm also going to be creating a playlist on my YouTube channel, which will have links to all of the sewing videos for all of the makers who participated in our day, our Nooga sewing day. So yeah, I'm so excited. This is such a fun event for me. And when you make your Nooga bag, please post it on social media, tag me with K-Deal Handmade, and post it in my group, tag me on Instagram, social media, whatever. I'd love to see what you make. And so, yeah, guys, just have fun. And again, thank you so, so, so much for supporting me and all of these other amazing people who are participating today. I appreciate you so much. Thanks, guys.